Yeah, guys, so welcome back to another episode of WhyPhi. Today, we're going to be talking about Mythology of the Milky Way. This video is kind of like a continuation of a previous one where I talked about my ideas on what the Milky Way actually is. I mean, it was really kind of like a cliffhanger ending, but I did that because I wanted people to actually think about the idea and not have me tell them about it. So anyhow, I came across an interesting Bible passage which made me start thinking about something. This passage is Isaiah 24:1, and it says, "Behold, the Lord lays the earth waste, devastates it, distorts its surface, and scatters its inhabitants." And if I read the King James Version, it says something really similar. "Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof." Okay? And then there was another passage, Jeremiah 4:23. "I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light." In my last video, I pointed out that the Milky Way was possibly a giant electric discharge scar and was part of the whole formula for creating the Earth here. And so after I read those passages, it kind of got me thinking that if there were inhabitants on the Earth when all of this went down, then there must have been a time when there was no Milky Way in the sky. And so I did a couple of quick searches and found a whole bunch of mythologies to do with how the Milky Way was actually created. And so they all kind of talk about a time when there was no Milky Way, and then now there was a Milky Way because of something occurring. And it seems like every place in the world, every single culture of the ancient world had some kind of mythology about this. So I just want to quickly talk about them. I'm just going to cover them in plain English. I'm not going to read their historical names because God knows that I will completely butcher the pronunciations of those things. So I'm just going to tell it to you what its literal translation is in plain English. Alright, let's get started. So the first one we're going to cover is Armenian, and Armenian mythology goes like this. Ancient Armenian mythology called the Milky Way the Straw Thief's Way. The Straw Thief's Way, according to legend, a god stole some straw from the Assyrian king and brought it to Armenia during a cold winter. And when he fled across the heavens, he spilled some of the straw along the way. In Assyrian Aramaic, Syriac, the Milky Way is called the Way of Straw, or the Path of Thieves. I'm just going to go through these quickly because there's quite a few of them. The Khoisan people of the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa say that long ago there were no stars and the night was pitch black. A girl who was lonely and wanted to visit other people threw the embers from a fire into the sky and created the Milky Way. Interesting. Next one is Cherokee. The Cherokee folktale tells of a dog who stole some cornmeal and was chased away. He ran away to the north, spilling the cornmeal along the way. The Milky Way is thus called Where the Dog Ran. The Finno-Ugric. Among the Finns, Estonians, and related peoples, the Milky Way was and is called the Pathway of the Birds. The Finns observe that migratory birds use the galaxy as a guideline to travel south. This folklore is pretty interesting. So in Estonian folklore, it is believed that the birds are led by a white bird with the head of a maiden who chases birds of prey away. The maiden was the queen of the birds and the daughter of the king of the sky. After refusing the suits of the sun and the moon for being too predictable in their routes and the pole star for being fixed, she fell in love with the light of the north and its beauty. They became engaged, but the inconsistent light of the north left her soon afterwards. The tears of the broken-hearted Lindu fell upon the wedding veil, which became the Milky Way, when her father brought her to heaven so she could reign by his side and guide the migrating birds, who followed the trail of the stars in her veil. Interestingly, migratory birds use the Milky Way as a guide to travel to warmer southern lands during the winter. Mesopotamia. In the Babylonian epic poem, Enuma Elish, I think that's how it's pronounced, the Milky Way is created from the severed tail of the primeval saltwater dragoness Tiamat, set in the sky by Marduk, the Babylonian national god, after slaying her. The Moray. To the Moray, the Milky Way is the Waka canoe of the Tamarareti. The front and back of the canoe are Orion and Scorpius, while the Southern Cross and the pointers are the anchor and rope. According to the legend, when Tamarareti took his canoe out onto a lake, he found himself far from home as night was falling. There were no stars at this time, and in the darkness, the Taniwa would attack and eat people. So Tamarareti sailed his canoe along the river that emptied into the heavens to cause rain and scattered shiny pebbles from the lakeshore into the sky. The sky god, Ranganui, was pleased by this action and placed the canoe in the sky as well as a reminder of how the stars were made. And the last one I have here to share with you are the Australian Aboriginal people. The Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains in southern Australia see the band of Milky Way as a river in the sky world. They called it Wudlapari. Wudlapari means house river, and believe that positioned along the river are a number of campfires. Also, the dark patches mark the dwelling places of a dangerous creature known as a Yura. They call these patches Urakawe, which literally means monster water. Interesting, no? In ancient Greek, Orpheus says, From the beginning, the glooming night enveloped and obscured all things that were under the ether. The earth was invisible on the account of the darkness, but the light broke through the ether and illuminated the earth. What I found amazing is that there are so many cultures out there that have some kind of story to do with the Milky Way being created. And it's like something or someone was going along the sky and throwing things out. And to me, that's like, if I think about what goes on in electrical discharge like that, you can kind of imagine it as like an arc welder moving along a surface with his arc welder, and it's like throwing out material all over the place because of what's going on, right? Well, it's the same thing with the electric arc. If an electric arc was moving along the surface of something, it would be scattering material all over the place, which is kind of what was going on in my mind anyway. That's the way I imagine it, is that something was going along, discharging along the surface of the sky and was throwing out material on either sides, and that became the stars of the sky. Like it threw it everywhere. It just scattered it completely everywhere. This also ties into another mythology which I looked into, which was a time when there was no sun or moon or anything, and people were actually living on the earth. There are stories which were passed down from generation to generation. They talk about a time when the only light on the earth was from campfires. And if we read into some really historical books, like the Oralinda book, it talks about cities which had huge fires in the center of them, in the citadels and things like that. And I'm just curious to know if maybe there were times when there was no or very little light on the earth, and they used these citadels to, create beacons for people so that they knew where cities were. It's probably a topic for another video, so we'll probably just end it there. But yeah, if you guys like this episode, leave a like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.